culture.
For all of the villainous performances we've seen in Batman films over the years, you could very easily accuse DC and Warner Bros. Of playing it all too safe. We've seen 3 Jokers, 2 Two-Faces, 2 Banes, 2 Catwomen, and while other more famous members of the Rogues Gallery like the Riddler, Penguin, Scarecrow, and Poison Ivy have appeared only once each, there really ought to be more variation in who Batman fights, don't you think? So, with suggestions that the next solo Batman film will include most of Batman's villains, where can Ben Affleck turn to for a little originality? I'm Ben from What Culture, and here are 10 essential Batman villains not yet used in the movies. Number 10. Calendar Man. Calendar Man has rather unfairly garnered a reputation for being something of a comic figure, despite the fact that he's an arch-criminal, albeit one whose gimmick makes him fairly easy to track. His most interesting appearance, and indeed the one that would work best in a film, sees him reimagined in The Long Halloween as a sort of Hannibal Lecter-like figure who helps Batman find the holiday killer. Weirdly, he's arguably more dangerous behind bars than he is outside, and changed from a third-string comedic character into a great, very relevant one, his story deserves to be told, particularly if Affleck is indeed making an Arkham Asylum film. Number 9. Deacon Blackfire. Not all supervillains need to be grotesque, otherworldly creations with super strength and laser beam eyes. Some could be just as compelling, wielding little more than their corrupting influence, like Deacon Blackfire, Gotham City's most famous cult leader who built an army in the city's sewers, started a violent war on crime, and took over the place entirely. Most impressively of all, he also indoctrinated Batman and took him in as a cult follower before the Dark Knight eventually broke his conditioning and took him down. Considering the symbolism of power and fear in the movies, he'd be a perfect foil for Batman. Number 8. Solomon Grundy. Solomon Grundy is a wholly different prospect to every other Batman villain. He's undead, for a start, having been murdered in the 19th century and brought back to life thanks to the magical properties of a swamp, and has super strength and immortality to set him apart from other zombies. He's also a key part of the excellent The Long Halloween story, which definitely needs to be made, helping Harvey Dent take down Sal Maroni for the acid attack that turned him into Two-Face. That should be reason enough to want to see him on film. Is the world ready for Batman vs. the immortal super zombie? You bet your ass it is. Number 7. Man-Bat. He might be higher on the weird spectrum than a lot of traditional evil stereotypes in the Rogues Gallery, but Man-Bat is as great as he is striking. As well as every advantage bats have, flight, sonar, giant claws, and teeth, he also boasts super strength, super speed, and superhuman senses. And, most importantly, he looks like a massive bloody bat. Man-Bat is the purest horror character there is in the Batman universe, a sort of comic book version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And in a sense, he doubly confirms why Batman is so fearsome to villains, and throwing that back in Batman's face is something no other villain really does quite so handily. Number 6. The Mad Hatter. The Mad Hatter is obviously obsessed with Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland, which has made his stories as striking as it's made him ridiculous. For that reason, he's never truly been considered among Batman's most powerful villains, but his insanity is very appealing. His crimes, kidnapping young blonde girls obviously, are incredibly creepy and would lend themselves perfectly to a more procedural Batman detective movie. Just imagine it as Seven, with Bruce Wayne following the trail and having to come to terms with a villain capable of invading and controlling his mind. That's something we've not seen before. Number 5. The Court of Owls. Though they only debuted in 2011, the nefarious, mysterious group calling themselves the Court of Owls have been the biggest new villains introduced in Batman comics for some time. They also perfectly suit the idea of Batman as a sort of dark people's champion, fighting the corrupt elite classes intent on retaining power at any cost and by any means. Their chief power is their money, and their use of the immortal assassins group, the Talons, wiping out any who threaten to expose or dethrone them. In that respect, the two-tiered dynamic would mean that we'd get a story testing both Batman's detective skills to uncover the court and his fighting skills to defeat the Talons. Number 4. Hugo Strange. You don't become the first real recurring villain to someone as big as Batman without earning your stripes. Before the Joker leapt to the top spot, mad scientist Strange terrorized Gotham with his monster men. Since those early days, though, he's been reinvented as a psychologist, but in most iterations, he's intelligent and dangerous enough to work out who Batman really is. He's a typical mad scientist type, fascinated by Batman as a specimen to be dissected, and of course his involvement, which has been heavily rumored before, would mean we could get a proper Arkham Asylum film. Number 3. Clayface. Shape-shifting characters can be no more than an easy way of writing your way out of ridiculous storylines, but there is a reason why Clayface is one of the most cult-adored villains among Batman fans. He's hugely powerful, not only because he can turn himself into anyone Batman knows, but also in terms of his durability and strength, and his ability to literally drown people with his body. Imagine a thriller with Batman investigating crimes that seem baffling even to the world's greatest detective, only to discover he's been undone by a monster in his midst. It writes itself. Number 2. Red Hood. Some of the most successful Batman villains are those with personal vendettas, and they don't come much more personal than Jason Todd's. The second Robin was killed by the Joker in A Death in the Family, but returned to become Gotham's newest vigilante with precisely none of the restraint of Batman. As he's had the same training, he's essentially Batman, but with an underlying violent tendency and no personally installed rules for not killing. No limits means great results, and his very existence makes Bruce Wayne question just how much good he's even doing as Batman. That's got to be a great foundation for a compelling but still action-heavy film, and it's already set up thanks to Todd's apparent murder in the DCEU. Number 1. Hush. Otherwise known as Tommy Elliot, Hush, like the very best villains, was created to be the antithesis to Batman. He and Bruce Wayne were childhood friends from similar class backgrounds, only Tommy's family were abusive, driving him to attempt their murder. He vowed vengeance against the Waynes when Bruce's dad, a surgeon, saved his mother's life. Hush is very much the there but for the grace of God version of Batman, forced to stay at home and care for his mother or risk losing his inheritance. And on discovering that Bruce Wayne is Batman, he manipulates almost all of Gotham's villains in a grand conspiracy, proving his intelligence and guile. And while he's not superpowered, he is cunning, conniving, and willing to kill, with deep-rooted personal reasons for wanting Batman dead. It's surely only a matter of time before someone brings him to the big screen. And that's our list. Are there any other Bat baddies we missed off? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can even follow me here on Twitter if you fancy. I'm Ben from What Culture, and thanks for watching.